Our story begins in a grand estate, a place of supposed peace and comfort. But inside, a furious man declares a banishment from the noble family. The target of his rage is a young man, cast out without a second thought. To is left stunned, his world crumbling in an instant. But the shock quickly hardens into a steely, determined glare. His name is Toa, and he runs, leaving his old life behind him. As he flees through the city, his mind drifts back to how this all began. You see, Toa is a reincarnated soul from another world. His past life was one of endless labor, ending in death from overwork. He awoke next as a baby, reborn into a life of apparent luxury. He thought this new life was his golden ticket to Easy Street. But reality hit hard when he was declared talentless in both magic and swordsmanship. The staff whispered behind his back, always comparing him to his perfect older brother. Toa was furious. Where were the cheat skills every reincarnated hero was supposed to get? Labeled a failure, he was slowly isolated, even by the brother who once stood by him. After his mother's tragic death, his father quickly remarried and moved on. To avoid any trouble, he was shipped off to a remote territory, effectively exiled. The place was a dumping ground for the kingdom's most dangerous and monstrous outcasts. His new companions were a charming collection of battle-hardened brutes. A frail-looking man approaches, asking if our boy is the new inmate. The welcome party's message is simple: get strong or get dead. Toa is left speechless, the grim reality of his new home sinking in. But that shock hardens into a familiar, stubborn determination. He refuses to die here. He hasn't even gotten his promised slow life yet. His new life was a trial by fire, starting with the swordsmanship he never had. He was thrown around like a rag doll, his body pushed to its absolute limit. He was even taught magic, something he was supposedly talentless in. The training wasn't just physical, he was forced to hit the books too. His days became a grueling cycle of training under his new, terrifying masters. And after all that, he gets a lukewarm bowl of soup. What a reward. For 10 long years, he was forged in the fires of that brutal land. He spent a decade defending the border, only to be summoned home for his own exile. He's not even surprised. Getting banished with your territory is an isekai classic. Now stripped of his title, he's just a commoner without a coin to his name. He remembers demanding his father pay him back for the years of neglect. But that anger won't feed him. He needs money for food and a place to stay. A new plan begins to form in his mind, a way to earn a living. And just like that, he finds himself standing before the local adventurers guild. An idea sparks. This could be the answer to his immediate problems. In this world, adventurers are celebrated heroes who can make a fortune. He remembers the weak child he once was, a boy with no options. But now he has the strength forged by his monstrously powerful masters. With this power, he's sure he can finally earn that peaceful life he's craved. First things first, though, these fancy noble clothes have got to go. He steps inside the guild, his eyes immediately locking onto the reception counter. Without a moment's hesitation, he marches up to the desk to register. He finds himself waiting behind a pair of adventurers already at the counter. The red-haired girl tries to reassure her nervous-looking companion. To's gaze is drawn to the healer's staff, noticing it's a rather rare model. Suddenly, the girl flinches, as if she somehow heard his silent observation. The girl and her friend turn, realizing they've been holding up the line. They quickly apologize for the delay, but To simply waves it off. The receptionist confirms they're here to register and informs them of an upcoming test. Just then, another adventurer approaches, teasing the red-haired girl for her nerves. He offers them some friendly, if slightly bizarre, advice involving imaginary writing. The trick is an old superstition meant to ease anxiety before a big moment. His simple charm works wonders, and the two girls immediately seem more at ease. The man beams, happy to have helped the aspiring adventurers. Their turn is called, and the receptionist leads them away for their exam. The cheerful adventurer wishes them luck as they head off to prove their worth. Toa watches them go, thinking they'll probably do just fine as adventurers. With the line now clear, the receptionist turns her attention to Toa. She slides a registration card forward, asking him to fill in his details. He can't use his family name, so he simply signs himself as Toa. The receptionist cheerfully informs him his provisional registration is done. He asks why he can't take the test today, a bit annoyed by the delay. She explains the previous two were the last test takers for the day. With that sorted, he now faces the classic problem of being broke and homeless. He steps back out into the bustling city, a man with no home. The next morning arrives, bringing with it the day of his exam. He arrives to find the guild is already packed with other hopefuls. The receptionist informs the crowd that they'll be called in order. Soon enough, a staff member calls out Toe's name for the exam. He's directed to a classroom on the 3rd floor for his test. He makes his way down an eerily quiet hallway, the silence building tension. Peeking inside, he finds the exam room is surprisingly cluttered. A voice from within greets him, a friendly but mysterious welcome. The sudden greeting catches Toe completely off guard. His examiner is a small elf girl named Teo, dressed in, well, not much. Toe is stunned. Seeing an elf in the city is rare, and he can't help but stare. Teo acknowledges his surprise, noting that elves are indeed a rare sight in human cities. She leads him through the cluttered storeroom, leaving Toe to question this bizarre exam setup. He starts to panic about a written test, but Teo just smirks and confirms his name. Toa is still confused, but the elf simply smiles, her gaze unwavering. With a flash of light and a surge of magic, she declares the exam has officially begun. The world shifts, and they're suddenly standing in a vast open field. Toa realizes she used spatial magic and spots a group of people waiting in the distance. His other examiners are a motley crew of tough-looking adventurers. They size him up, commenting on his sharp senses but seemingly naive expression. Toa's face darkens. He knew from the start that something was suspicious about this test. Teo smirks, commenting on the brutal politics of noble families. But Toe simply returns her gaze with a knowing smile of his own. He realizes these people are far too prepared to be simple examiners. He calmly states that while he's no longer a noble, he is far from inexperienced. Teo dismisses his past, saying his family drama is irrelevant to her. Her friendly facade shatters, revealing a chilling command, "Just die for them." For a split second, Toe is caught off guard by her sudden bloodlust, but he immediately draws a sword and a staff, ready for a real fight. The other examiners mock his choice to wield both weapons at once. They think he's just putting on a show, trying to look cool. A classic villain mistake. He grips his sword, telling them not to worry about him, but about themselves. A dark aura surrounds him as he invites anyone who wants to die to step forward. Teo just smirks, impressed by his bravado but certain it won't save him. With a chilling smile, she begins to chant, gathering immense magical energy. She unleashes a devastating hellfire spell, intending to turn him to ash. But Toe is already focused on the 2 warriors charging him from the front. One of them lunges forward, a crazed grin plastered across his face. Teo observes their pincer movement, a perfectly balanced party attack. Toa, however, remains completely unfazed by the coordinated assault. He calmly raises his staff, erecting a powerful defensive barrier to block them. The rogue taunts him, claiming Toa left himself wide open for an attack. But Toe just smirks, completely unfazed by the obvious feint. The assassin appears behind him, believing he's landed the killing blow. But it's the attacker who's caught in the trap, his eyes wide with disbelief. In a blur of motion, Toe has already moved past the frontline fighters. One warrior yells for backup, only to realize his partner is already out of the fight. Seeing her pawns failing, Teo casts a body reinforcement spell on her remaining allies. The newly empowered brutes charge again, swinging with everything they've got. From the backline, another cloaked mage prepares to unleash a powerful spell. A bolt of lightning streaks towards Toa, who seems more annoyed than threatened. With a simple sidestep, Toe effortlessly dodges the incoming lightning. Teo screams at her warriors to press the attack, her confidence starting to crack. But her brutes only succeed in crashing into each other, their attack a total failure. In the chaos, Toe's expression turns cold as he prepares his counterattack. Furious, Teo begins chanting another hellfire spell, putting all her power into it. But Toe is faster, calmly declaring her magic is far too slow to ever hit him. The spell is reflected back, engulfing the cloaked mage in his own devastating attack. Teo can only watch in horror as her ally gets a taste of his own medicine. She's left stunned, unable to process how her perfect ambush went so wrong. Toa stands over her, explaining that his brutal borderland training made him an expert in chaotic battles. Toe smirks, offering a mock apology for not showing his true power sooner. He was, after all, trained for a decade by the legendary heroes of the Borderlands. Teo panics, screaming that this is her spatial magic and he has no way to escape. But with a deafening crack, the very fabric of her pocket dimension begins to break. She can only watch in horror as Toe effortlessly repels her magic with an ancient art. He calmly explains that he simply borrowed her space by overwriting her spell. Teo is floored. Rewriting a spell in the middle of a fight should be impossible. His friendly demeanor gone, To suggests it's time for them to have a little chat. Back in the real world, the commotion finally draws the attention of a senior guild member. He bursts in to find To standing over the magically bound and utterly defeated elf. The senior guild member is completely bewildered, demanding to know what happened here. He turns to Toa, the only one standing calmly in the room, and asks for his identity. His eyes narrow as the pieces click into place. He realizes Teo was running a secret assassination ring. He can't believe she would use the Adventurers Guild as a front for such a despicable operation. But his anger quickly shifts to gratitude, thanking To for taking care of their little problem. Toa, however, isn't here for thanks. He tells the guildmaster to handle this properly and wait for the guards. Our boy is clearly not impressed by the guild's complete lack of internal security. Seeing the guildmaster's hesitation, To offers him a piece of friendly advice. With a snap, he conjures a massive magic circle, warning that lies are the start of destruction. The guildmaster is left speechless, realizing he's not dealing with some random rookie. The guildmaster's panic triggers a memory of his own brutal training days, but To quickly shakes off the past, his focus returning to the present. He calmly confirms that yes, he's the one responsible for this little magic trick. The guildmaster scrambles away, apparently forgetting who the actual rookie is here. Toa calls him out, questioning if his high-ranking position has made him greedy and corrupt. His expression hardens as he recalls the place that truly forged him, the Borderlands. There, he learned from his mentors that true heroes fight to protect others. He remembers their words, telling him he was far too young to be buried on the frontier. They had lived their lives on the front lines and wanted more for him. Their final command was for him to go and finally find that slow life he'd always dreamed of. His expression turns cold as he accuses them of tainting the legacy of his masters. Terrified, the guildmaster demands to know if To plans to execute them. But To's mood suddenly lightens, dismissing the idea as far too much work. He gives them a sharp look, promising to return in just 1 hour. He offers them a deal: choose one person to represent them and face the law. The assassins descend into chaos, realizing any attempt to break free could be fatal. Even the elf is terrified, with no idea how to escape this perfect trap. And just like that, it's a battle royale for who gets to go to jail. With the seeds of chaos sown, To casually exits through his own portal. Leaving them to their fate, he calmly walks away to handle his own business. To's next stop is a surprise visit to a very familiar face. He casually greets his older brother, who is less than thrilled to see him. The brother demands to know why Toa has appeared in his room unannounced, but the gears are already turning. He realizes his assassination plot has failed. Toa calmly asks if his brother, having tried to kill him, is prepared to die himself. The brother puts on a brave face, declaring that he is absolutely ready. Toa is thoroughly unimpressed, giving him a solid wow for that performance. His brother tries to appeal to family rules, saying he won't stop To from taking over. But To couldn't care less about the family title. He's not interested. He explains he has no desire to be a noble. He's only here to fulfill a promise. He makes his terms clear: stay out of his life from now on. Toa is no longer a noble, he's just an adventurer who will live freely. Defeated, his brother can only turn away and agree to the promise. Toa offers a formal, almost sarcastic thank you to the new family head. He walks off into the night, only regretting not getting a free meal out of the deal. He sighs, wondering when his dream of a slow life will ever become a reality. His path leads him back to the main street of the capital city. He lands with a solid thud, his mind made up on his next move. But all that plotting is put on hold by a rumbling stomach. Priorities, people. Meanwhile, the guards are rounding up Teo and the other would-be assassins. After all that drama, he's still broke, hungry, and without a place to sleep. The next morning, he heads back to the one place that might solve his problems: the guild. He walks in to find the hall in a complete uproar, a far cry from yesterday's calm. An angry mob of adventurers surrounds the reception desk, demanding answers. The poor receptionist can only explain that the guild is closed due to an incident. Toa watches the chaos unfold, knowing full well he's the one who caused it. He notes that the guildmaster he dealt with earlier is conveniently absent. He recalls the aftermath of his exam, where he sorted the living from the dead. Suddenly, a familiar face bursts onto the scene, demanding everyone's attention. He announces a temporary closure, and that all of yesterday's applicants have passed. He frantically directs the crowd to check for requests at neighboring guilds. To can't help but think how ridiculously disorganized this whole situation is. But organizational chaos won't fill his stomach. He needs to earn some cash, and fast. Now that he's officially an adventurer, he heads straight for the quest board. He quickly notices that most of the available jobs are solo requests, which suits him just fine. But a simple herb gathering quest feels like a complete waste of his talents. He recalls the receptionist suggesting he form a party, but it's not a requirement. Besides, trying to find trustworthy teammates right now sounds like a massive headache. Just then, his stomach makes a compelling argument that beggars can't be choosers. He muses that if he had to join a party, he'd at least want it to be with someone like those two girls from yesterday. His thoughts are interrupted by a familiar voice begging for another chance. It's the two girls from yesterday, and the young healer looks completely distraught. A pair of adventurers are berating them, accusing the healer of being useless. They call her a fraud for trying to join their party without knowing basic healing magic. Desperate to prove them wrong, the girl closes her eyes and focuses all her will. A complex and powerful magic circle begins to form in front of her, but just as it materializes, the light begins to flicker and fade away. The intricate spell collapses completely, dissolving into nothing. The girl can only stare in shock, her attempt an utter failure. But Toe watches from the sidelines, wondering why her powerful spell just fizzled out. Toe's sharp eyes analyze the failed spell, a flicker of understanding in his gaze. He saw it clearly. Her magic didn't just fade, it was actively being destroyed. The brute takes this as his cue, screaming that she's a useless fraud. The young healer is devastated, whispering in disbelief at her own failure. Losing his patience, the adventurer grabs her, ready to throw her out. She panics, trying to plead with him as he begins to drag her away. But a calm voice cuts through the commotion, asking to interrupt their little scene. The brute turns, annoyed, to see Toe standing there with a deadpan expression. Toe steps in, calmly informing the brute that his behavior is deeply uncool. He claims it's his business now, declaring that the girl is an acquaintance of his. His eyes lock onto a pendant around her neck, one he's certain she wasn't wearing yesterday. He calmly asks her to try the spell one more time, promising he'll see what's wrong. The brute is furious, demanding to know who Toe is to suddenly butt into their business. He accuses Toa of being in on the scam, defending a so-called fraudulent priest. The red-haired girl steps between them, trying to get her friend away from the brute. The brute scoffs, thinking Toe is just some show-off trying to look cool. But Toe just gives a casual wave, telling the guy to do whatever he wants. He turns back to the healer, gently asking if she'd be willing to try her magic again. The girl is completely flustered, her confidence shaken by the earlier failure. She looks down, admitting that she's lost all faith in her own abilities. Toa offers a gentle smile, calling out to the girl to snap her out of her despair. With a flick of his wrist, the cursed pendant around her neck shatters instantly. The young healer can only stare in shock, completely bewildered by his actions. He calmly tells her to try her healing magic one more time, assuring her it will work now. He looks her in the eye, telling her that it's okay and that she just needs to trust him. He explains that the necklace was the problem, and now she's free to use her magic. Taking a deep breath, she gathers her courage and prepares to cast the spell. She focuses her will, and a brilliant healing sigil materializes in front of her. A bright flash of light confirms the spell has been successfully cast. Guess third time's the charm. Overjoyed, she realizes her magic has returned, a look of pure relief on her face. Toe turns to the brute, calmly stating that the girl clearly wasn't lying. The brute demands to know why her magic failed before, blaming the broken pendant. Toe's eyes narrow as he confirms the item was indeed a cursed tool. He explains it was specifically designed to interfere with her ability to cast spells. He asks the brute to back off, pointing out that the girl was a victim, not a con artist. With no argument left, the brute just clicks his tongue and stomps away. Guess he won't be getting a good Yelp review. With the immediate threat gone, the young healer nervously turns to Toe. Toe suggests they move, noting the guild hall is far too noisy for a proper chat. He offers to take their conversation outside, away from the prying eyes of the crowd. Overwhelmed with relief, the girl bows deeply, thanking him for everything he's done. Toe just waves it off, saying he was the one who decided to butt in. But the girl is still flustered, realizing how helpless she was without him. His expression turns serious as he gets to the heart of the matter. He holds out the shattered pendant, asking where she got the cursed item. She explains it was a gift from a friend named Grasa, a memento of their trip. The healer insists her friend would never knowingly give her something so dangerous. The name clicks. Toa remembers Grasa as the red-haired girl from the registration line. Now worried for her friend, the healer realizes she needs to find Grasa immediately. Seeing her distress, Toe calmly offers to help her with the search. He suggests they form a party, figuring fate has already thrown them together. So much for that solo career. The young healer is taken aback by his sudden offer to form a party. But her surprise quickly turns to heartfelt gratitude as she accepts his help. Meanwhile, deep within a dark cave, a monstrous presence makes itself known. Grasa is trapped, wondering how her first real quest went so horribly wrong. Her party is cornered, and even their powerful warrior fears they won't make it out alive. Back on the road, Toe summons a familiar to speed up their journey. Guess walking is for chumps. He tells his new, terrified party member to hold on tight for the ride. Their destination is a forest east of the capital, where Grasa was last seen. Toe seems to be enjoying the ride a little too much for his companion's comfort. They learn from a local guild that Grasa joined a party called Windfang. The party is led by a battle-scarred warrior named Edra. They learn Grasa's group was headed for a dungeon deep within the forest. As they race across the plains, their destination finally appears on the horizon. Toa calls out to his new companion, whose name is Nika. He gives her a stern warning about the dangerous monsters that inhabit this area. But Nika's resolve is unwavering. She'll do anything to save her friend. Her determination earns a rare, approving smile from Toe. The moment triggers a memory of his own past, when his brother came to find him, but he quickly shakes it off, dismissing it as ancient history. His focus returns to the present, where Nika is struggling to keep up. Guess the familiar didn't have a passenger seat. They pass a lone traveler, who notes their desperate rush towards the forest. Nika asks about the travelers, but Toe notes they came from the forest's direction. He tells her to stay alert, sensing that something is very wrong up ahead. As they draw closer, Toe notices an unnatural silence blanketing the woods. This is the domain of a dungeon, a nest of monsters that repels all normal life. Toa tells Nika it's time to dismount. They can't risk his familiar this close to danger. Nika gives the creature a grateful pat before Toe sends it on its way. Now on foot, Toe scans the dense woods, searching for any sign of the entrance. He activates a powerful detection spell, his vision expanding beyond the physical realm. His magic quickly locates a presence nearby, but he can't tell if it's Grasa's party. With his spell active, Toe confidently points the way forward for Nika. Nika is amazed by his skill, realizing he can pinpoint the dungeon's exact location. He explains that dungeons are beacons of concentrated magic, easy to spot if you know how. A wave of hope washes over Nika. If they've found the dungeon, Grasa must be near. Their search is interrupted by a nervous-looking adventurer clutching a shield. He's clearly been through a rough time, desperately asking if they're a rescue party. Toa is taken aback, trying to understand what has the man so spooked. The man dismisses their questions, insisting there's no time for explanations. He then reveals a crucial piece of information. He and his party are Grasa's friends. A sudden rustle from the path ahead cuts their conversation short. The survivor confirms their mission, realizing they're here to find Grasa. He explains that she and their leader are still trapped deep inside the dungeon. Nika is horrified. Her worst fear is now a terrifying reality. Toa asks what happened, noting the dungeon wasn't supposed to be this difficult. The man explains they discovered a new route hidden behind a rock slide. Curiosity killed the cat, and it's not looking good for the adventurers either. But the path was a trap. The floor collapsed, swallowing Grasa and the leader whole. He shows them a tracking device, but admits he lost their signal somewhere in the depths. Nika is overcome with worry, her hands trembling at the thought of her friend's fate. But her fear quickly hardens into resolve. She declares she has to go save her. The man warns them it's an uncharted area, urging them to wait for reinforcements. But Nika tearfully refuses, insisting that Grasa is waiting for them right now. The survivor understands her desperation, but warns that it's too dangerous even for A-rank parties. He tells them that rushing into an uncharted area is nothing short of a suicide mission. Toe and Nika stand in silence, the weight of the decision hanging in the air. Nika clenches her fist, torn between the terrifying risk and her loyalty to her friend. But Toe's expression remains unchanged, his resolve as solid as ever. The survivor admits that waiting might not be a viable option either. Well, that's just great. With a look of pure determination, Toe declares that he will go. He tells Nika they have to do everything they can before it's too late. Because he knows that if they don't act now, they'll regret it for the rest of their lives. But Nika shouts that she is going with him, her voice filled with conviction. She refuses to let Toa face the danger alone. Grasa is her best friend. Her fear is replaced by a fierce, unwavering determination. She places a hand over her heart. her loyalty absolute. To is taken aback by her sudden display of courage. She reminds him that they're a party now and they'll face this together. Seeing her resolve, To finally relents and agrees to her joining. He tells the survivor he'll take her, but promises to keep her safe. Guess he's the designated babysitter now. The man sighs in resignation, knowing he can't change their minds. He offers them his partially completed map of the dungeon, a final act of help. With their minds made up, To and Nika step into the gaping maw of the dungeon. The survivor watches them go, recalling the immense magical power he sensed from Toa. He knows he should have stopped them, but a part of him hopes they can save their leader. Deep inside, Grasa and Edra are surrounded by a swarm of grotesque monsters. Edra grits her teeth, annoyed by the relentless horde closing in on them. She shoves Grasa behind her, taking point to face the monstrous wave. With a powerful kick, she sends one of the creatures flying back into the swarm. She lands gracefully, her sword at the ready for the next attack. A fierce battle cry rips from her throat as she prepares to charge. Looks like someone's not going down without a fight. She swings her blade with deadly precision, determined to carve a path to safety. The creatures are small and weak, but they attack in overwhelming numbers. But Edra is a storm of steel, leaving a trail of defeated monsters in her wake. She pushes forward, determined to fight her way through to the next chamber. Hiding behind a rock, Grasa can only watch in terror, calling out her leader's name. A strange sound catches her attention, something that isn't the clash of battle. She spots a small opening in the cave wall, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. It's an upward slope, a potential escape route from this underground nightmare. She turns to call for Edra, but a massive shadow suddenly falls over her. A colossal foot slams down, shaking the very foundations of the dungeon. Well, so much for the easy part. Grasa turns in horror, realizing their fight for survival has just gotten much, much harder. Edra's expression hardens as she senses a new, more powerful presence. A hulking, minotaur-like beast emerges from the shadows, blocking their path. Its eyes glow with malice, a true demon from the dungeon's deepest levels. The monster looms over Grasa, who is frozen in terror on the ground. Edra screams her companion's name, her voice echoing with desperation. She identifies the creature as a high-level demon and prepares for a desperate charge. With a burst of speed, she throws herself between Grasa and the monster. But her heroic charge is cut short by an attack from an unexpected direction. A smaller goblin-like creature has latched onto her back, blade at the ready. Guess the big guy brought a friend. The creature drives its knife into her side, a brutal and cowardly blow. Overwhelmed by the swarm, Edra is brought down by the horde of smaller creatures. Grasa can only watch in absolute horror as her last line of defense crumbles. The warrior struggles on the ground, her strength finally giving out. Grasa calls out her leader's name, her voice filled with disbelief and despair. The grim reality sets in. She is now completely alone and defenseless. Seeing its chance, the massive demon raises its arm for a final crushing blow. But in a flash of light, a powerful magic circle appears, blocking the deadly attack. Nika's voice cuts through the chaos, apologizing to her friend for being late. And right beside her stands Toa, announcing that the cavalry has officially arrived. His expression turns serious as he analyzes the enemy, preparing to even the odds. Toa identifies the beast as a B-rank demon, a dangerous foe for even A-rank parties. Nika calls out to Toa, her voice filled with concern for their trapped friends. To steps forward, telling Nika to stay back and protect Grasa. His expression is calm and focused, ready to take on the entire horde. He notes the goblins swarming the fallen warrior, realizing there's no time to waste. Edra is bleeding out fast. She needs immediate medical attention to survive. To raises his staff, a complex magic circle materializing at its tip. He unleashes a powerful light arrow spell, a blinding wave of holy energy. Looks like someone's about to get smited. The spell rains down on the goblins, instantly vaporizing the smaller creatures. With the small fry gone, he turns his attention to the real prize, the Minotaur. To stands alone against the hulking demon, completely unintimidated by its size. He counters the beast's powerful swing with an earth magic spell of his own. A massive stone wall erupts from the ground, absorbing the full force of the blow. The Minotaur can only grunt in confusion, its attack completely nullified. Seizing the opening, To leaps high into the air, preparing a devastating counter. He plunges his sword deep into the monster's skull with brutal efficiency. But he's not done yet, immediately preparing a follow-up windblade spell. The beast roars in agony as sharp gusts of wind tear into its massive body. He casually blocks the resulting blood splatter. Messy work, this hero business. The demon's legs begin to crumble, its powerful form starting to disintegrate. Toe stands over the dissolving remains of the demon, his work far from over. Nika rushes to her friend's side while Grasa can only stare in utter disbelief. She can't comprehend how he defeated such a powerful monster in a single blow. Toa confirms the immediate area is clear, his senses sweeping the cavern for threats. Nika checks on Grasa, relieved to find she's not seriously injured. But their attention quickly turns to the fallen warrior, whose life is fading fast. He kneels beside the body, confirming this is Edra, the party's leader. Toa realizes she fought alone to protect Grasa, earning his silent respect. Without hesitation, he begins to channel a powerful, high-level healing spell. The magic flows into her wounds, stitching the fatal injury back together. His expression is grim. He stopped the bleeding, but the wound won't fully close. He recalls his master's words. Regenerating lost limbs is a whole different level of magic. He looks at her mangled hand, wondering if he has the talent for such a complex spell. His face hardens as he realizes the devastating truth. She'll never wield a sword again. Grasa and Nika look on anxiously, asking about their leader's fate. Toa explains that while her life is saved, the goblins took her fingers in the attack. She might live a normal life, but her career as a warrior is effectively over. Grasa is horrified, unable to accept the devastating news. But Toa cuts through the despair, telling them they need to get to the surface first. Overwhelmed with guilt and gratitude, Grasa can only cry in response. Grasa wipes away her tears, trying to pull herself together after the ordeal. Toa agrees. His only focus now is getting everyone back to the surface safely. He asks Nika to retrieve the Minotaur's magic stone before the dungeon absorbs it. With the immediate threat gone, he tells Grasa to help him carry the unconscious Idra. But Grasa hesitates, turning back to Toa with something on her mind. She thanks him again, finally realizing he and Nika have formed a party. Toa simply conjures a clean towel for her, a small but practical gesture. He gives her clear instructions on how to support Edra for the journey back. And with that, Toa lifts the warrior onto his back, ready to move out. Guess he's the pack mule now. Nika returns with the magic stone, confirming their grim task is finally done. Toa declares the magic stone will be sold to cover Edra's medical expenses. With their fallen leader in tow, the newly formed party begins the long trek out. Suddenly, a magical signal flares up, alerting someone to their presence. Outside, another member of Grasa's party senses their approach. He's been waiting anxiously, deciding the waiting part was his main contribution. Toa emerges from the darkness, announcing that they have returned. The man's face floods with relief seeing them alive. He asks about Edra, and Toa confirms she's alive, but her fighting days are over. The sight of her mangled hand is a grim reminder of the battle's cost. He offers to take the burden, telling Toa he can finally rest. Toa places a hand over the fallen warrior, channeling his magic to stabilize her. The survivor is stunned, asking how Toa knows such advanced healing magic. Overwhelmed with guilt, Grasa tries to apologize to her fallen leader. But Edra stops her, saying there's nothing to apologize for. She reflects on her long career, asking what they think is the main reason adventurers retire. Toa guesses it's because of injury or old age, the most logical answers. But the survivor corrects him with a grim truth. Most adventurers don't retire, they die. Idra holds up her ruined hand, saying that to retire with your life is a blessing. Her words hit Grasa hard, the weight of the situation crashing down on her. She can only whisper that this is all her fault, consumed by her own guilt. Edra looks over at the sobbing Grasa, trying to get through to her. But her expression hardens, realizing simple words won't fix this guilt. Toa watches on, surprised by the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Nika steps forward, casting a simple healing spell on Edra's hand. The veteran warrior is taken aback by the young healer's gesture. Toa tries to stop Nika, knowing her magic won't be enough for such a wound. But Nika isn't just trying to heal a physical injury, she's trying to heal Grasa's heart. Toa reminds her of the harsh reality. Even his advanced magic couldn't fix it. Nika refuses to accept this, her voice trembling as she denies his words. Her eyes burn with a fierce determination, unwilling to let her friend suffer. Toa tells Nika to stop, warning that she'll collapse if she keeps this up. Grasa looks on in horror, calling out her friend's name in desperation. But Nika refuses to yield, declaring she won't stop for Grasa's sake. The rest of the party can only watch, a somber mood falling over the group. Toa knows that completely exhausting one's magic is a life-threatening risk. He activates his detection spell, ready to intervene if her life is in danger. But what his magical senses reveal leaves him completely stunned. Her magic isn't behaving like a normal healing spell, it's gathering at the wound. He realizes she's not just trying to heal a cut. This is something far more advanced. His eyes widen in disbelief, wondering why she's using such a complex art. Against all odds, new flesh begins to form on Edra's ruined hand. The severed fingers slowly, impossibly, start to grow back. Toho can only stare, realizing he's witnessing a true miracle. He remembers his master's lesson. Healing can mend, but it cannot create. They told him of a legendary art, a miracle magic that only one person was said to possess. As a child, he had asked if even the kingdom's greatest healer could use it, but his master explained it was an innate talent, a power one is born with. And now Toho understands the true nature of Nikka's incredible gift. This isn't simple healing, this is the legendary art of regeneration magic. Talk about a hidden talent. A wave of pure life energy washes over Edra, her hand completely restored. The survivor can only stare in disbelief, asking if the wound is truly gone. Even Edra herself is stunned, questioning if her hand is really back to normal. Grasa praises her friend's incredible power, but Nikka begins to sway on her feet. The miracle comes at a cost. Nikka collapses from the immense magical strain. Toa catches her just in time, demanding to know what's happening. He quickly diagnoses it as simple mana exhaustion, a common rookie mistake. Our boy calmly conjures a potion, assuring everyone he has the situation under control. Edra tells Grasa to carry her friend, and she readily agrees to the task. But the survivor watches them with a thoughtful, almost suspicious expression. Suddenly, Nikka's eyes snap open, a gasp escaping her lips. Grasa rushes to Nikka's side, asking if she's all right. The survivor explains that thanks to Nikka, Edra's fingers have completely grown back. Nikka can only whisper in relief, glad that her friend is safe. But To's expression is grim. He knows the real problem has just begun. He recalls that in this kingdom's history, users of regeneration magic are incredibly rare. They're considered divine messengers, placed under protection by the state, which, as To knows, is just a pretty word for being locked away forever. Talk about a golden cage. As the survivor cheerfully bandages Edra's hand, To makes a decision. He realizes he has to stop this from happening, no matter the cost. Without a word, he grabs Edra and pulls her into a desperate run. But his desperate escape is cut short as a powerful grip stops him in his tracks. A hand clamps down on his arm, refusing to let him get away. He realizes he's been caught, but it's not by some kind of binding magic. It's just Edra, who yanks him back with a very unimpressed look. Guess she's not a fan of being kidnapped. The survivor steps between them, telling them both to finally calm down. Edra is surprised to see him, finally recognizing her party member Ledrol. She looks around, completely disoriented, realizing they're finally out of the dungeon. Her first instinct is to check on Grasa, pulling her into a relieved embrace. With the chaos settled, the group finally takes a moment to process what just happened. Edra turns to Toa and Nikka, understanding that they are the ones who saved them. Edra bows deeply, apologizing for her earlier aggression towards her saviors. She offers a heartfelt thank you, knowing she and Grasa owe them their lives. But Grasa is still overwhelmed with guilt, blaming herself for Edra getting hurt. Edra gently comforts her, saying that all that matters is that she's safe. Toa and Nikka watch the touching reunion, relieved that everyone made it out. But To's mind is elsewhere, confirming that Nikka possesses regeneration magic. Nikka seems completely unaware of her own power, asking if it's really that rare. To knows that such a precious talent will inevitably attract unwanted attention. Grasa listens with a worried expression, sensing the gravity of the situation. Edra explains the grim reality. If the state finds out, Nikka will be protected for life. Edra admits it's not her place to say, but she feels she must give her advice. Grasa can only look on with concern, whispering her friend's name. Toa lays out the options, telling Nikka the choice is ultimately hers to make. After a moment of silence, Nikka quietly agrees, her decision now set in stone. Sometime later, Ledrol flags down a carriage, their ride back to civilization. The rest of their party is relieved to see them, urging them to get inside. And with that, they leave the cursed forest and its dark secrets behind them. Back in town, To and Nikka bid a formal farewell to the adventurers they saved. Their journey ends where it began, back at the local adventurers guild. But Grasa has one last question, asking how they knew where to find her. Toa explains it all started with the necklace he found on Nikka. Grasa confirms she gave it to her, asking what was so wrong with the gift. The truth hits her like a ton of bricks. It was a cursed tool. Nikka explains it was designed to block her magic, which is why she was so desperate to find Grasa. Grasa is horrified, realizing she unknowingly put her best friend in danger. She apologizes profusely, but Nika is just glad they're both safe now. Grasa recalls how everyone supported her, making the weight of her mistake even heavier. Toa knows that without that cursed item, this whole tragic ordeal could have been avoided. He cuts to the chase, asking the most important question. Where did she get it? Grasa explains it came from a merchant in the capital, an old friend of her father's. Looks like this rabbit hole goes deeper. Grasa names the source of the necklace, the Black Kura Trading Company. Toa has never heard of them, wondering if they're a new establishment. But Grasa can't believe her father's friend would do this intentionally. Toa knows that whether it was malice or incompetence, they must investigate. Grasa is ready to rush over, but Toa advises a more measured approach. Their planning is interrupted by Nika, who has something to say. She admits she needs time alone to think about her newfound power. Toa agrees, telling her to take all the time she needs to make her choice. He and Grasa leave her to her thoughts, knowing this is a heavy burden. With Edra now fully healed, Toa decides they'll handle the merchant in the meantime. Their investigation leads them to the capital's Black Kura Trading Company. They're guided down a long, opulent hallway, the air thick with tension. A door opens and a voice apologizes for keeping them waiting. Grasa looks on nervously, recognizing the man as a family acquaintance. The merchant, Black Kura, introduces himself and asks for their business. He flashes a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes, definitely not winning any trust awards. The interrogation of their number one suspect is officially underway. Seated in his office, Black Kura once again asks them to state their purpose. Toa decides to cut right to the chase with no time for pleasantries. The merchant gives him a smug look, questioning why he's being interrogated at all. Toa leans in, asking if he was the one who gave her the cursed item. The merchant feigns ignorance, questioning the very idea of a cursed tool. Grasa speaks up, confirming the necklace was indeed a gift from him. The truth hits him. He knows it was an item designed to block magic. He puts on a show of concern, asking desperately if Grasa was hurt. She explains that she was only saved because Toa and his party intervened. Black Kura sighs in relief, claiming he couldn't face her father otherwise. What a performance. But Toa watches the whole act in stony silence, completely unconvinced. The merchant claims he had no idea a cursed item was mixed in with his stock. He then compliments Toa's skill, trying to play off the incident as a simple mistake. Black Kura maintains his smile, saying he's just glad no one was seriously hurt. But Toa isn't buying it, calling such an oversight a fatal mistake for any merchant. The merchant's eye twitches, his polite mask slipping for just a moment. He quickly recovers, agreeing with Toa and offering to make amends for the error. Toa looks down, stating that Grasa's safety is all the compensation he needs. Black Kura presses the issue, offering to pay for their adventuring expenses. But Toa cuts him off, dismissing the offer as unnecessary. The merchant's eyes narrow, realizing this kid can't be so easily bought. Looks like Plan A is a bust. Toa meets his gaze, an unspoken challenge passing between them. Grasa peeks out from behind Toa, sensing the dangerous tension in the room. But Toa's senses tell him the merchant is perfectly calm, his vitals unchanged. He realizes he needs more leverage, another card to play in this dangerous game. So he activates his possession spirit magic, planting a familiar on the man's back. With the conversation at a stalemate, Black Kura decides it's time to wrap things up. He claims he's a busy man, though he'd love to chat more with Grasa. Toa agrees to leave for now, his expression giving nothing away. As they're shown out, Black Kura thinks how simple it would have been if Toa just took the bribe. He scoffs, believing the kid has a nose for trouble but picked the wrong fight. Famous last words, buddy. His smile turns into a sneer. He'll make Toa regret his insolence. Because he's already sent his men to take care of the problem permanently. Black Kura's thoughts echo through the hall. He'll deal with Grasa later. As they walk away from the company, Grasa calls out to Toa, breaking the silence. She says the merchant told her not to worry, but Toa knows it was all a lie. He explains that the man's act fell apart the second he knew they saw through the curse. His over-the-top concern was just a desperate attempt to change the subject. Toa notes that the merchant's attempt to buy his silence was deeply insulting. He was just trying to pay them off to make the whole problem disappear. Toa touches his chin, agreeing that the man's guilt is all but confirmed. Grasa clenches her fist, declaring that Black Kura must answer for what he did. Toa's focus shifts. He needs to know why they were targeted in the first place. Toa suddenly stops, telling Grasa to head back to Nika without him. She offers to help him with his supposed shopping trip. He deadpans that he's just buying underwear, which sends her into a flustered retreat. She wishes him well and quickly scurries away, leaving him alone in the alley. The moment she's gone, To's senses flare, a scraping sound echoing nearby. He glances back, confirming Grasa is safely out of sight. His expression hardens. He knew this was coming. Looks like the welcoming committee has arrived. An enemy mage appears from the shadows, launching an earth magic attack. But To is completely unfazed, telling his ambushers to stop hiding. A trio of menacing figures emerges, ready to silence him for good. To notes that the merchant certainly works fast, not even waiting a full hour. The leader of the trio taunts him, telling him to stop sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. But To realizes this might not be a coincidence. They may have been targeting Nika's power all along. The leader asks why he's so interested in their business, feigning innocence. He smirks, saying he just wanted to have a little fun with the cocky new adventurer. He orders his men to capture Toa, making a crude threat about what will happen next. The mage unleashes a barrage of ice shards, a spell called Blessing Freeze. But To counters with his own fire magic, ready to melt the attack instantly. Suddenly, the third assassin fires a lightning arrow, striking his own teammate. Talk about a toxic work environment. Toa watches the chaos unfold, his expression hardening as he processes the betrayal. The remaining assassin charges, but To easily parries the clumsy attack. He asks why Black Kura's men were ordered to capture him, not kill him. The leader just laughs, refusing to give up any information. Toa's eyes narrow, he's done playing nice. He dodges another strike, creating an opening for his counterattack. With a smirk, he notes how rude it is to use earth magic at close range. A point-blank spell sends the leader flying back in agony. To pins him to the ground, taunting that he'll need more men to make this fun. Guess the odds weren't in their favor after all. He turns his attention to the last man standing, his patience wearing thin. His gaze is cold as steel as he demands the answers he's looking for. Meanwhile, in a quiet office, a man calmly stirs his morning coffee. He takes a slow, deliberate sip, his mind clearly elsewhere. His eyes scan a report, his expression hardening at the mention of a slave market. He'd been investigating suspicious nobles, and it seems his worst fears are being confirmed. In this kingdom, slavery had been outlawed by royal decree 2 decades ago. It was a law the current king himself had championed, a symbol of his reign. To break it would be an act of open rebellion against the crown itself. He clenches his fist in disgust, viewing these traitors as nothing more than insects. Because this man, Kashit, is the kingdom's loyal watchdog. And he's just picked up a scent. And he vows that those who dare defy the king will be made to regret it. To asks why they attacked, confirming that Black Kura was the one who sent them. The assassin just spits defiance, refusing to give up any information. Toa's expression is flat, he's clearly heard enough. He follows up with a brutal kick, sending the man flying. The assassin can only scream as the force of the blow registers. He crashes to the ground, his tough guy act completely shattered. But instead of finishing him, To casts a high-level healing spell. The assassin is stunned as the warm light closes his wounds. He can only stare in disbelief as the pain completely vanishes. Guess this is the good cop, bad cop routine, but with magic. But his gratitude is short-lived as he lunges forward for another attack. To's kick connects with brutal force, leaving the man gasping for air. The assassin looks up in confusion, asking why Toa would heal him. He recognizes the spell, stunned by To's use of high-level healing magic. Toa calmly confirms that healing is just another tool in his arsenal. His expression darkens as he promises to heal him, only to break him again and again. The assassin's bravado shatters, realizing he's trapped in a cycle of endless pain. He finally breaks, begging To to stop and promising to tell him everything. Looks like the magic-based torture worked a little too well. The man confesses it's all for the slave market, a secret operation. He reveals Black Kura is a key player, funneling people into this dark underworld. To's eyes narrow. Slavery was outlawed in this kingdom decades ago. The man insists he's telling the truth, claiming he only handles the kidnappings. He reveals the plan was to capture Toa and sell him into slavery. Toa's focus shifts, asking what their plans were for Grasa. The assassin admits Black Kura wanted her captured alive for his own twisted reasons. Toa realizes the horrifying truth. Grasa was meant to be a hostage. The goal was to use her to control Nika after her magic was sealed. He understands Black Kura's obsession is the root of this entire mess. Now terrified, the assassin begs for help, not wanting to become a slave himself. Guess he's had a sudden change of heart. Toa looks down at the pathetic man, his expression unreadable. He finally speaks, offering to lend a hand in this dark affair. Meanwhile, Nika stares out the window, lost in thought. She mulls over the revelation of her own power, regeneration magic. Her thoughts are interrupted by Grasa, who has finally returned. Grasa asks where Toa is, explaining he went off to do some shopping. Nika can't hide a hint of disappointment at his absence. Grasa's expression turns serious, sensing her friend is still troubled. She asks if Nika is still worried and gets a quiet confirmation. Nika opens up, confessing she always believed she had no real talent for magic. A memory surfaces of her younger self, struggling to heal a simple wound. She explains that in her peaceful village, her magic was never truly needed. But Grasa reminds her that she was the one who encouraged her to become an adventurer. She recalls a time when Nika's power first revealed its true potential. They had found a small horned rabbit caught in a trap, on the verge of death. But Nika had used her magic, pouring her energy into the dying creature. The rabbit was completely healed, a small miracle that inspired them both. Guess even the bunnies get plot armor. Nika smiles, admitting that was the moment she decided to become a healer. Grasa admits she never knew it was regeneration magic, just that it was special. But Toa's voice cuts through the memory, reminding them of the state's protection. Nika's expression falls, the weight of her choice returning in full force. Toa watches them, knowing this legendary power was first used to save a friend. Nika closes her eyes, believing she'll only cause them more trouble if she stays. She turns to Grasa, her voice heavy with the decision she's about to make. Grasa is stunned as Nika says she'll accept the state's protection. Her friend demands to know why, but Nika admits it's not what she wants. She offers a pained apology, feeling she has no other choice to keep them safe. Grasa is horrified, unable to accept her friend's self-sacrificing decision. But then her expression softens into a knowing, gentle smile. She understands Nika is only trying to protect them, just as they protect her. Elsewhere, Toe lands silently on a rooftop, his mission far from over. He knows he has to get to the Noble District, and he has to get there fast. The capital is a sprawling city, with a clear divide between the nobles and commoners. From his vantage point, Toe surveys the district, his plan already in motion. He thinks back to Nika and Grasa, a fond smile crossing his face. But his resolve hardens. He vows he won't let them face this danger alone. With Nika's power a target and Grasa in the crosshairs, the situation is critical. He leaps across the rooftops, his sights set on an approaching carriage. Toe lands silently in its path, forcing the driver to a sudden stop. The man looks up, startled and annoyed by the sudden interruption. But Toe moves in a blur, delivering a swift chop to the man's neck. Guess he didn't want to chat. He catches the unconscious driver, gently laying him down before taking the reins. Inside the carriage, a noble calls out, demanding to know what's happening. But before he can react, a figure appears right behind his guard. It's Toa, who dispatches the man with another swift, silent strike. The sound startles the passenger inside, who looks up in alarm. The carriage door swings open, and Toe unceremoniously dumps the unconscious guard inside. He then greets the passenger, Viscount Kashyyyk, with a casual, upside-down smile. Talk about making an entrance. Toe invites himself in, dismissing the Viscount's questions about his now napping escort. He claims he was just looking for a ride and decided this fancy carriage would do nicely. Kashyyyk isn't buying it, asking if Toe is here to kill him or if he has a purpose. Toe cuts right to the chase, asking the kingdom's watchdog what he knows about the slave market. Toe flashes a grin, noting that the Viscount's expression says it all. Kashyyy's face hardens, demanding to know if this is some kind of threat. Toe dismisses it as a joke, but wonders aloud if Black Kura is the one supplying the nobles. As the carriage rolls on, Kashyyyk asks how a common adventurer knows so much. Toho explains he's here to ask a favor of the kingdom's most powerful investigator. The Viscount listens in silence, his expression unreadable. He finally tells Toe to get to the point and state his business. Toe signals for the carriage to stop, announcing that this is the place. He places a hand on the unconscious driver, a magic circle flaring to life. Toa tells the man to stay quiet, his plan now fully in motion. The captured assassin looks on in despair, knowing he's completely powerless. Toe coldly reminds him that his comrades are already dead. He has nowhere left to run. With a new deal struck, Toe tells the man it's time to put their plan into motion. Elsewhere, a noble in his study asks about the master Black Kura serves. The assassin enters the room, announcing his return with a heavy sack over his shoulder. The noble turns from his books, asking what exactly his subordinate has brought him. The assassin explains he's to report to Black Kura first, following his new orders. He's brought a little souvenir for his boss, a captured toe, bound and ready for delivery. The plan is to use camouflage magic to sneak in, all while Toe's familiar keeps a close watch. The deal is simple: infiltrate the slave ring, find evidence, and in return, he gets to keep his life. Guess he chose the better of two very bad options. The assassin reports that the man who was with the girl is alive. Black Kura's face contorts, demanding to know what happened to Grasa. The man stammers that she managed to escape, Toe's familiar listening in. Black Kura clicks his tongue, his fury barely contained. Suddenly, a magical sigil burns to life on the assassin's chest. The man screams as the curse activates, a brutal punishment for his failure. Inside the sack, Toe flinches at the sound of the man's agony. He peers out, recognizing the magical mark branded on the man's skin. The mark comes from a cursed tool, a magical brand used for control. Toe understands this isn't just an employee, he's a slave on a magical leash. Toa listens from the darkness, hearing Black Kura question his own slave. The merchant confirms his true target was Grasa, his voice dripping with menace. And all the while, Toe's familiar silently relays every detail back to him. Impatient, Black Kura orders the man to open the sack and reveal his prize. The assassin reveals Toa, who continues to feign unconsciousness. Black Kura yanks him up by the collar, furious at the trouble he's caused. He orders the boy taken to the underground prison, playing right into Toe's hands. Toa gives a subtle confirmation. Everything is going exactly as planned. A bookshelf slides aside, revealing a hidden passage deeper into the compound. Of course, there's a secret bookshelf door. A hidden switch is pressed, opening the way into the heart of the operation. Black Kura looks into the darkness, commenting on his own elaborate hidden door. The assassin nervously carries the unconscious Toe over his shoulder. With a cold expression, Black Kura orders the man to follow him down below. The assassin can only stammer in agreement, clearly terrified of his master. Toa remains completely limp, playing the part of a captured prisoner perfectly. They're led down a long, dark corridor, deeper into the compound's secrets. The path descends into a grim underground staircase. Welcome to the VIP dungeon tour. They emerge into a horrifying sight, a hallway lined with prison cells. Inside, a captive sits in despair, the grim reality of the slave market revealed. Black Kura leads them past the cells, deeper into his wretched domain. Black Kura points to an empty cell, ordering the boy to be thrown inside. The assassin complies, dumping Toe's limp body onto the cold stone floor. A splash of cold water hits Toe's face, a crude way to wake him up. Black Kura reveals a magical branding tool, ready to make Toa a proper slave. The scene cuts away as morning light streams through a window elsewhere. Grasa wakes up, her voice filled with worry as she notes Toe hasn't returned. Nika wonders if something happened during his confrontation with the merchant. She sits in silence, her mind consumed by the events of the previous day. Grasa is startled by her friend's sudden quietness, asking what's wrong. Looks like everyone's on edge this morning. Nika apologizes, admitting she was just lost in her own thoughts. Grasa recalls her doubts, remembering Black Kura was a friend of her father's. A memory surfaces of her younger self, peeking in on their conversation. She remembers her father's kind and trusting smile. As a child, she had asked what he and the merchant were discussing. Her father had simply called Black Kura a good friend who was helping their family. Back in the present, Grasa apologizes, blaming her own weakness for the situation. Nika watches her friend, her heart aching at Grasa's misplaced guilt. The memory shifts to Black Kura's chilling promise to always support Grasa. Yeah, that's not creepy at all. Her father had seemed momentarily surprised by the merchant's intensity. But he ultimately accepted the words with a trusting smile, sealing their fate. But Grasa's expression hardens, her resolve finally taking shape. She stands up with sudden determination, startling Nika. She declares she's going to find Toa, unable to just sit and worry any longer. Nika looks at her friend, her own fear replaced by a bright, confident smile. She takes Grasa's hands, a silent gesture of unwavering support. With a simple nod, she agrees, their path forward now clear.